Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Maat. You see the title, family. Today, I'm going to be talking about Malcolm X, anti-education pro-blacks, and the unconscious community. That's right. Yeah, Doc is taking a jab at the conscious community and calling it the unconscious community because that's what it seems to be in today's context. I wouldn't have called this the unconscious community decades ago, where you had folks like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Ben, Dr. John Henry Clark, those folks on the scene. It wasn't the unconscious community then. But now in 2024, the conscious community, in my opinion, has become the unconscious community. And so, anyway, I'm going to be talking about that as well. So, we're going to be talking about Malcolm X, anti education pro blacks, and the unconscious community. But before I do, family, let me share my screen with you. I have a few announcements to make. I'm going to share my screen. Hold on. Should have had it locked and loaded. Here we go, family. Make sure that you get your children enrolled in the UACI Summer STEM Camp. This will be our third iteration of the camp. This camp is a beautiful and powerful blend of history, Black history and STEM, and STEM, right? Or specifically engineering. So your children will be exposed to Black history in STEM. So they'll be taught about the contributions that we've made, to the growth and expansion of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And then they'll be exposed to coding, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity concepts. Family, make sure you get your children enrolled. The seating is limited. We only have 30 seats. And some people say, well, Doc, it's virtual. So why are you guys limiting your camp to 30 students? Because we have 4 instructors, and we want to make sure that we give each child, an intimate learning experience, right? You got 100 kids online with 4 instructors. That's not an intimate experience. So we want to make sure we give your child an intimate learning experience. And so the camp is going to start on July the 8th. It's going to run for 2 weeks from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of the children will be sent a Google Chromebook and a STEM kit. I repeat, all children will receive a Google Chromebook and a STEM kit. And so you'll be online with us. Your child will be online with us for approximately 4 hours per day for 2 weeks. And we're going to have a good time. We got a lot of great feedback from camp participants. And it seems like the camp is growing every year. The first year that we did it, we had roughly about 11, maybe 10 or 11 students. Last year, we had 22 students, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. In fact, the school reached out to me in California, 22 Ways of Leadership Academy. They reached out to me, and they have some children that will be joining virtually. As a matter of fact, they said they're going to get a classroom and get the children in the community to come to the classroom to take the camp, to go through the camp over the summer. So the camp is definitely growing, family. So make sure you head on over to UACISTEMcamp.com. I'm going to throw the link in the chat. UACI STEM Camp. Hold on, guys. I'm throwing it in the chat and I'm going to put it on the screen. UACISTEMcamp.com. Okay, go there and make sure that you get your child registered as soon as possible. Also, family, make sure that you head on over to MELTREK365.com and get your MELTREK episode 3. Look at this. I'm going to scroll down, man. Look at this. MELTREK episode 3, exploring the Ma'afa part 1, the arrival of the Portuguese, is now available. And it's available in digital and DVD format. So if you come on over to MELTREK365.com, you scroll down, look at this. You click on the film, and guess what? You have an opportunity to stream or to watch all 3 films, okay, digitally. So your child now, because I know a lot of parents say, well, I don't do the DVDs, Doc, but some parents still do the DVDs. So I still sell you MELTREK on DVD. But now you could come here, click on MELTREK episode 3, and you have an option to stream all 3 episodes. All right. So MELTREK episode 3 is available now. And this particular episode teaches children about the origins of European enslavement and colonization of African people, starting with the arrival of the Portuguese in Africa. Okay, and we talked them, or we walked them through when the Portuguese took over Quetta, and then they went into Morocco, and from Morocco they went into Mauritania, and then they got past Cape Bojador and got into West Africa and started kidnapping Africans up and down the Guinea coast. Your children learn about that, family. So make sure that you head on over here to MELTREK 365. I'm just clicking on all of them to make sure that when you click on them, when you click on them, that you can access the digital downloads. So, and also the DVD format. So I'm going to drop this link in the chat as well, meltrek365.com, right? Because we trekking 365 days a year to learn about our history and our culture. Ashe. So let me throw that on the screen as well. And then lastly, family, make sure that you get your child. Oh, I spelled MELTREK wrong. I'm typing off fast. MELTREK 365.com. All right, here we go. All right, that's the correct URL, family, meltrek365.com. And then lastly, make sure that you get your son, enrolled in the ASAFO training camp. This camp focuses on manhood development and Black boys between the ages of 12 and 14, family. So make sure that you get your son enrolled in the camp. Space is limited. We only have 20 spaces. And although the camp is based in Baltimore, shout out to the New York brothers and sisters. Shout out to the Philly brothers and sisters. People have driven their son here to Baltimore, kicked it with Dr. Maat all week long while their child went through the program. So it's not just limited to Black boys in Baltimore. All right. And we're also launching the Agoji camp for young girls between the ages of 12 and 14, right? And that will focus on womanhood development and Black girls. So family, be on the lookout for that website. We're actually going to start working on that website probably next week. Okay. And both of these camps are going to start the last Sunday of July. And both of these camps are free. I repeat, both of these camps are free. So make sure you get your child enrolled in one of those camps. So if you have a son, get him enrolled in the ASAFO training camp. If you have a young girl, get your young girl enrolled in the Agoji training camp. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our brother Ankh. And I reached out to him. Before I bring him on, let me tell you why I reached out to brother Ankh. I got tired of seeing folks in the community bang on education, right? I do understand that the current education system as it stands, that the people have strong criticisms. And I understand those criticisms. And some of the criticisms I actually agree with. But to act as if you are against education entirely, I have a problem with that. And so I reached out to brother Ankh, and he said, sure, I'll come on, and unpack this topic with you. So without further ado, I'm bringing on our brother Ankh Cat. Brother Ankh Cat, peace and love to you, warrior. How are you?
Man, you know what it is. It is what it is, Doc. I've been saying this for years. You've been telling me for years. We've been going around like this.
Break it down, Ankh.
I say one piece, you be like, yeah, but look at that piece. Certain things ain't what you think it is based off of where you at. And I was like, yeah. And so, our message resonates. And it's just time to put it all together. We've been on the same page. And being on the same page don't mean that me and you agree to every daggone thing, because we just have intelligent arguments over conversations. I lose a lot. You know what I'm saying? You win some, it's back and forth. It's a great conversation. I've learned in your areas of expertise, I've learned to defer. And I think I told you earlier, the point was, I said people aren't privy to your connection points in education. Most people aren't professors. You're actually a professor. And being a African American professor doesn't stop you from teaching African American kids or Mexican or whatever. It doesn't stop you, because your message resonates around the world, period. Get to proper methodology, understand the field of studies, and don't deny education. And it resonates with everybody. but we have become popularized in a community that absolutely disagrees with education, but yet howls and screams at the top of their lungs as if they're educated.
Come on.
This is
Come
the
on.
issue.
Come on.
Another thing, we've had educated ancestors that came before us, and they all act like they understand what they were saying. Um, they all act like we're following them. You're actually not. That's the thing that gets me the most, Dr. Yacht. They'll say the name like the physicist Shikanti Diops. Yeah, he's a physicist and an anthropologist, right?
Teach.
They're screaming to the top of the lungs, Shikanti Diop said this, but they'll quote something from him that's 50 years old in the field study, right? They won't do like Europeans do. They discard the things that Diop's got wrong and throw it in the trash cans of history, and then they'll put him in the museum for the things that he got right.
Come
See,
on.
we can't do that. They flip flop it. They glorify the things that he got wrong and ignore the things that he got right. Same with Dr. Ben. Oh, he did this, and they all miss those chapters on evolution. You got Diop's pushed evolution, Charles Darwin variety. You got John Jackson pushed evolution, Charles Darwin variety, and Dr. Ben. This is where I learned it from. One of the greatest, John Henry Clark. He talked about pseudoscience and one drop rule and all this, right? And they all deny that. They think I'm crazy. I'm just bringing what the elders bring, and then they'll call me anti-black. They'll call me anti-black, right? But yet they deny the Africans on the Nile Valley. So I'm in a wild discourse with those who don't actually care about education, and for some crazy reason, they think that education is some kind of way white. Yeah, like there aren't any mutations at about 15,000 years ago, until about 15,000 years ago, that would even produce pale skin. And oh, by the way, what you would classify as Europeans, they're no younger or older than the African. They come at the exact same time. There is no I'm older than you. It's called Homo sapiens sapien, all its varieties is what it is. And so when I say stuff like that, I'm simply saying what Dr. Benham said, John Jackson said, what the real educators was. I'm actually saying that. But since nobody really studies them, and they grab on the things that make them feel good instead of really listening to them.
Come on, that
all
part.
Of a sudden, I'm the bad guy. So I'm coming to tell you, they can never get past me with that nonsense, because I'll just bring the elders. Since I'm against the elders, last time I checked, we weren't supposed to be sitting at their daggone feet in 2024. We supposed to be standing on their shoulders. Simple as that. You taught me a valuable lesson. You was like, well, it's a way to do that. Oh, well, okay, I hear you. You said other communities don't just throw them away.
No, not at all.
You said, and you give a great example of Ben Franklin. Was it Benjamin Franklin?
Yeah, it was a Benjamin Franklin.
Can we get that?
Yeah. So I was saying that Benjamin Franklin thought that the electricity was solely due to the movement of protons. That's what he thought. And later on, scientists said, no, it's not. You know, you got the protons moving in one direction, you got the electrons moving in the other direction, right? So electricity is not due solely to the flow of, oh, let me mute you out because it's a delay. But he was saying, okay, so he was saying that it was not, he was saying that it was due to the flow of protons. Then you had scientists who came later and said, well, no, it's due to the flow of electrons. And so when you're looking at electricity, you got the protons flowing in one direction, you got the electrons, flowing in another. And so anyway, he's still regarded as the father of electricity. They didn't say, well, now that we know that he's gotten it wrong, he's no longer the father of electricity, we're just going to discard him. They took his work. They said, okay, this is the work that he provided. They found an error in his work, but he's still revered as the father of electricity in their culture. So the moral of the story is they didn't just throw him away because he got something wrong. I noticed in our community, we typically, when some of our intellectuals or our scientists or our mathematicians or, our historians, when they get something wrong, we just discard them. So we say things like, oh, you just have to chew the meat and spit out the bone, but we don't practice that. That's not what we practice. We typically will say, oh, they got it wrong, and we'll just throw the work away. But there were some things that they got right, and I even would think about this. We could think about this, Brother Ankh, from the lowest level. Think about our parents. Our parents didn't tell, brother Unc, there were things our parents got right, and there were things that our parents got wrong. So as their children, you say, well, you know what? There were some good things I can take away from what mommy taught me, from what my pops taught me, and then the stuff that they didn't get right, I'll try to make sure that I stay away. So it's the same thing, brother Og. Chew the bones, chew the meat, spit out the bones. And a lot of times what I've noticed in the community is that we typically don't do that. We just discard our black intellectuals when we feel like they have said something wrong or they've gotten something wrong. Peace to Dr. Dr. Asar Winkler. He's in the building. Dr. Asar, what's going on with you? Oh Lord, let me take him out. let me let him get his sound together. I thought Dr. Asar was ready to go. Like, let me get that sound. So I'll let him get his sound together, and then I'll bring him back on. But he wanted to weigh in on this because he and our brother Ankh have been talking about the anti-education pro-blacks as well. And you know what I noticed, brother Ankh? They'll prop up people like Dick Gregory. Man, Dick Gregory, they send videos. Dick Gregory, right. He's a comedian. They'll prop up. They post videos. Dick Gregory even said, that education is useless. It doesn't push us in the direction of liberation. I can play that clip, but he they prop him up. They also say things like Malcolm X. Look at Malcolm X. Look at Malcolm X, Doc. Malcolm X didn't have any degrees. He didn't have any degrees. So what good is education? People that we revere. And I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. Malcolm X is the same person that said education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it. That's what Malcolm X said, right? And Malcolm X also, where did he go and teach a lot of times, brother Ankh? You saw him in the universities. You saw him go on campus. He was teaching in the universities. He was going into the schools. He also has lectures where he talks about the importance of education. And he said, for the re-education of whites, and he said the re-education of blacks. He said that. So he was never, against anti-education. He never expressed anti-education sentiments. So I find it disturbing, and also it's really blasphemous that people will prop up people like Malcolm X and say to support brother Ankh their anti-education sentiments. Brother, just tell the truth. You didn't do well when you was matriculating in school. You just didn't do well. You didn't do well when you got called on. You probably fumbled over your words, and when you were reading aloud, or you were struggling with math, and you weren't successful in it. So now you got this. I think a lot of them have a vendetta against education. They did not perform well in school. I'm just telling you, brother Ankh, these are my personal feelings. I think some of them did not do well in school, brother Ankh. And because of that, they had these anti-high education. Because a lot of times we stray away from things that we're not good at. For example, my son Harvey struggled with reading in elementary school. So I used to work with him all the time. Come on, Harvey, let's go to the library. You got to read books. You got to read articles. But he did not like reading because he was not good in it. And I think that's a piece. I'm just not saying it's the whole thing, but I think it's a piece to it that some of these people weren't successful. And so they bang on education. Then I also think, brother Ankh, that there are some legit criticisms when people say, well, they're not teaching us our history from our perspective. Our culture isn't embedded in the pedagogical practices or the curricula, our ideology, our history, and so they kind of say, well, that causes disinterest in children. And I can see that it's a cultural mismatch. And so therefore that brings about a disconnection. So I can support that. So I think that is also an issue as well. But what are your thoughts, brother Ankh? Because I know I said a whole lot.
Man, yeah. You need to get that out. That's a great
I did have to get that out.
To get that out. So last time I checked, the great Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they was fighting for a greater vision. And that vision should be expressed through us. Bring it to fruition. They put us in a position to be able to go to school and get the same education that everybody got in America instead of having subpar schools with no books and all that. So if you got a subpar school in your community, it's your fault. I'm gonna say this again. If you have a subpar school in your school district, it's your fault. So you have marginalized communities, but within marginalized communities, you still got people with money. They can spend $300 on a pair of new Jordans coming out, LeBrons. They have the latest cell phones. Uh, you know, Apple. They have all these things, right? Everybody that lives in the hood can't afford those things. I'm not saying that. Some people generally can't afford to feed themselves. So they have programs for that. But there's enough of us running around in designer clothes. There's enough of us that break laws and do whatever we do or however we do it that can actually get to those schools to make sure. They only fund out a certain amount of money in all school districts. The difference is the people take a understanding that they need to invest in education. And I'm saying we're definitely capable of investing in our education. Why? We can do it now because of the greats like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They put us in a place where now we don't have any excuses. They took the brunt. Right? I'm saying white people was crazies in the 50s and the 70s. I mean, out there, like I don't even want to talk about white people back then. They was completely nuts from slavery to that point. And the fact that you would even water hose a young student down for simply saying I want my civil and human rights is ridiculous. The fact that you would think that I can't sit at the counter and eat food, but yet I can go through the back door, meaning you needed my economics, is bananas. The whole thing was out of order and crazy. And so we should not continue to fight that type of fight because we had great elders that actually put us in a position where now I'm not saying that police brutality has stopped. What I'm saying now is when you got beat up by police back then, you get thrown over in the road somewhere and nobody would even serve notice. Now, if it happens and they find it and investigate it properly, now you can at least get some money for the daggone incident. So I'm not saying that race relations in America are solved. They're real strange. I'm not saying it's systemic. We all know this. So if we understand this, instead of calling education the white man's education, then we need to have more people that look like us in that educational system. So I'm an advocate for having professors like yourself and doctors like that teaching our children. But I'm not an advocate to think that just because you look like us, you're going to give us the right information. I'm saying you should be judged off of your merits, off of your skill set, and off your ability to be a professor and teach. That's what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. And Brother Ankh, remember they got mad with me years ago when I said, in order to be certified, you must be verified by someone who is qualified. People got mad with me when I said that. You know, it's like people, you know, in this, and that's why I put the unconscious community and I capitalize un. In that particular community, people want to say and be and present. They want to present themselves as anything. I'm talking about, I've never seen anything like this in my life where everyone was an expert in everything. You know, I mean, you got expert linguists. They're not only expert in linguistics, but they're experts in science. They never talk about which branch of science, but they are scientists, they're linguistics, linguists, they're mathematicians, they're master teachers, they're this is a new world to me. Like, and I'm telling you, 10 years ago when I walked into this, I don't think that I knew what I was walking into. When I got on, you know, Sinetta's platform, I necessarily knew what I was walking into. And I remember you used to say, Doc, it's like a whole different world. Ankh, you were telling the God's honest truth. It was a whole new world. You got folks who are mad at you because you have a doctorate, you know, but then they claim to be pro-black, but then they mad at you because you're a doctorate, mad at you because you're critiquing the methodology of these so-called scholars. Because I came in critiquing these books that they were presenting, and I told you they were glorified book reports. I said, "Oh, these aren't books. I mean, these people. I wrote 100 books using Google with no data, plagiarizing. So when I was calling out that type of stuff, right, looking at the plagiaristic behavior in the community, looking at the false information, right, the pseudo information that was being presented, critiquing their methodologies, calling them out for not being experts in these fields that they're talking about, I got tomatoes thrown at me, brother Ankh. I got tomatoes thrown at me. Who she thinks she is? Then I wasn't a real doctor. Remember that? I wasn't a real doctor.
A real doctor.
Yeah, I wasn't a real doctor. And they didn't even know that you could get, they didn't even know in the unconscious community that you could get a doctorate or a PhD in a field other than medicine. They really thought that
electrician.
Yeah, they didn't know the difference between an electrician and an engineer. Right. I'm like, wow. So you don't understand that you can get a doctorate or a PhD in fields other than medicine. And they didn't know the difference between a damn engineer and an electrician. Brother, I never seen a community like this. I never seen anything like this, in my life. Then you had Polite using words, I mean, I remember I used to call you on the phone and I said, brother, people calling him articulate. Oh, he's articulate. And I'm a wordsmith. I love to read words. I got the dictionary. I got dictionary.com. I'm sorry, the dictionary.com app on my phone. I get up every morning and I love to look at different words and expand my vocabulary. I love to do that. Brother Polite on there. Yeah, because they didn't extrapolate. And then before they extrapolate, they didn't interpolate. And they did. And then people like, wow. I said, oh my goodness, I didn't know. Yeah, scamming. But Dr. Winkler, welcome to the panel discussion. We're talking about Malcolm X, anti-education, pro-blacks, in the unconscious community. I wanted you to weigh in on that because you and I have had private conversations also about these anti-education sentiments that are being, that are circulating on the internet. I just seen a post yesterday. I sent it to Ankh, and I'm not going to call the brother's name. I'm not going to do it. But in his post,
because I would. No, I'm not going to do it.
He said, never confuse education with intelligence. You can have a master's degree and still be an idiot. And so, that you got stuff like that floating around. Dr. Asar, you also have, and I sent this to you. Hold on. I know I sent this to you as well. Here you go. This is our inbox. You and I were talking. Another person said, never confuse education. Yep. It's the same post from a psychologist in Baltimore. And she has a damn master's degree. She said, never confuse education with intelligence. You can have a master's degree and still be an effing idiot. So she added effing to that. And then again, you have, like I said, this stuff that's floating around. Dr. Asar, I want you to weigh on this. What are your thoughts about, the anti-education sentiments that are being circulated on, social media and throughout the unconscious community? Oh, your mic, Doc.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you loud and
all right. Peace, brother Ankh. Peace, Dr. Maat.
How you doing, brother?
Peace.
All right. Oh man, I think you two already laid a wonderful groundwork, and I think is a bit disheartening because I know that there's some that truly believe these things, right? But I also think it's a predicament of our trauma as well. To add on to what you all are saying, right? They are charlatans, right? They're charlatans that will denounce and try to put you down so they can lift themselves up. That's one way, right? And that's what we see a lot in these popular social media platforms. Then there's those who really truly believe it, because I think, as you're saying, Dr. Maat, there's this piece inside of us. Maybe if we have not even to say you weren't even intelligent enough or what have you, but you just didn't follow that same trajectory. You just didn't reach that level of education or what have you. So there's a level of emptiness inside of you that now wants to now also lift yourself up. So now someone's speaking for you, like some people are speaking for you. So now you kind of follow that. But there's this other piece that, that I often speak to, that we believe the white man has the monopoly on education.
Come on.
We believe that education is the white man. So when they see you, Doc, they see someone who is a representative of the white system. And I think that that the problem with that, there's a problem with that, but there's also some legitimacy there. That maybe you're not Doc, right? You're not the problem. Maybe Brother Assad's not the problem. But see, then what it is intertangled with lots of the rhetoric that even some of our greatest scholars have said. I just have to be honest. I'm talking about those with or without education have denounced education in this sense, and sometimes they misappropriate some of our favorite truth speakers lines, like even they'll say, like Malcolm X said, I don't have no time to figure out who's who. So they'll say you're an agent of the system. So, they don't have a time to figure it out because you went through the white man's institution. They'll say, so all those type of things. But the trauma is real. And I think that what happens is, if I share with you, that there has been an overcorrection when it comes to, beating up on education. Now, people not saying, like, let's sift out what is good for us education. Now, if you've gone to the system, now you become an agent. And I understand that because the trauma is real. People who have gone through these systems have become agents of that system. But the problem is, when you've been traumatized, it's very difficult for you to distinguish between who is an agent or who isn't. And what I mean by that, I'm not saying agent like agent of the government. I'm just saying someone who is following the status quo.
Brother Ankh, what's your thoughts?
I think we have a lot of outdated arguments. We have people fighting from a 1950 stance, applying it to 2024.
Ooh.
I think the climate of the day has changed. There's enough powerful Black women in education, powerful Black men in education, that we can actually promote education. What they was talking about when they wouldn't even accept us as human beings, when they felt like we couldn't learn, when you had a little one room schoolhouses with no books in it. I think that's what they were speaking to as far as not allowing us to get educated, right? They absolutely felt like you couldn't learn. They absolutely felt like that they were better based off of racialized terms. Okay, hyper descent. When you take the person and put them at the bottom, you name them Black and you put them at the bottom. And that's what those elders was actually fighting for. For us to bring that same fight in 2024, I find it to be super ridiculous. We are intelligent enough to actually see the struggle and the fight of what they went through. We're privy to that now. We can play Monday morning quarterback, right? We're privy to seeing all the mistakes they made. We're privy to see how things that they threw at Europeans didn't work, and we know the things that did work. Now we can sit up here looking at the full picture and understand that the thing that they got us the most was not allowing us to be educated. That's what got us the most, our lack of education, our lack of understanding terms. If you cannot read a sentence and understand what the sentence is saying, you're going to mess it all up. I say it all the time, 90% of the people in the juvenile system are illiterate. I'm going to say this again.
That's true.
90%.
That's a true stat.
Right? Of our brothers and sisters that's in the juvenile system, they ain't adults yet, they are illiterate. So to fix this thing we talking about, the foundation has to be education, has to be scientific literacy, because scientific literacy actually will help you understand and qualify what your actual civic duties are as an African American. It'll make you understand where that term came from. Did it just pop out of nowhere? Should it be a political term? Should saying Black, I'm a Black man, I'm Black and I'm proud, Black African power. Yet I make the statement that race is a social construct. It's education that will bridge those two ideas together and put it in proper context, so you don't think I'm an idiot by saying Black African power, okay, but race is a social construct. There is no such thing as a Black race. If you're not educated, you'll say, what the hell is he talking about?
Right.
See how education will bridge that, right? You get that? So I'm saying we lack education, right? But we stick our chests out as if we super intelligent. That's crazy. So you're talking crazy about education, okay? But yet you get on stage and you call yourself a doctor and you are not.
Come on, that part.
See, the whole thing is confusion and foolery.
That part.
Confusion and foolery. Wait a minute. White man's education, but yet you use terms like Dr. Feel Good. He's not a doctor. Dr. Save, he's not a doctor. These are people we came to love. But and they talk about the white man's education and how crazy it is.
But
A
you're
lot
using
of
the
people
titles.
scared to say what I'm just saying, but I'm gonna say it though. So then why use the titles then?
Yeah,
You know
don't use the
why?
titles.
Why start saying, well, science this and science that? Because they know those titles actually have power, right? They know
Absolutely.
that science has power, and they know you're not getting anywhere without people, you know what I'm saying, that has those titles to help build your community. That's why, but they play this wild game, and that's what really get to me, Doc, is that it's complete foolery at the
It
end
is.
of the day.
Mm,
It is complete foolery. And then to say that someone who has gone through the process, right? They've gone through high school, they've gone through, undergrad and grad, and to say that that did not take a level of intelligence
mhm,
is mind blowing. I think that it absolutely does take a level of intelligence it takes a level of intelligence to read, to write,
mhm,
to problem solve, and
mhm,
then to solve novel problems, right? So, for example, in order to get your doctorate and or your PhD, and a lot of the programs, and I'm not going to say all of them. I know I can speak to my particular program, the program that I matriculated through. um, you had to solve a novel problem, right? Something that has not been solved before. And you had to conduct research, right? You had to formulate a research methodology. You had to conduct research. You had to collect data. You had to produce something. You had to go in front of your peers and present all that you've researched, all that you've created, and you had to defend your work, which is,
mhm.
like I said, novel. It's novel to the field of study. And you were under a lot of scrutiny, right? So you had everything you had to do. So you mean to tell me that that didn't take a level of intelligence? It didn't take a level of intelligence to formulate a novel research problem. It doesn't take a level of intelligence to orchestrate research, to conduct research, to apply a research methodology. It doesn't take a level of intelligence, right, to actually produce something and then to go in front of the people who are experts in that field and defend what you did. It's mind blowing to me, Dr. Asar. What are your thoughts on that? That you don't have any, it don't take no intelligence to
Mhm.
get to go through to finish high school, to finish undergrad or grad. It doesn't take a level of intelligence.
Right, right, right. The last time I was on your show and we spoke about that, and I said that you there has to be a level of intelligence there. And interesting enough, intelligence is not a indicator of your political positioning, though, and I think that becomes a problem, right? And
Mhm.
sometimes we conflate things. And the other thing that I find out in our community is what makes it problematic is that to some degree we begin to debate terms and say these are not African terms. So I mean, even a dear brother of ours, he would say that intelligence is not, you can't do those things and also be intelligent, because this is the way you look at it from an African perspective. Now, I think we have to operationalize exactly what we mean by words. But the problem is, once I operationalize exactly what I mean, then let's go with that, versus trying to um say, well, that's not an African way of looking at it. And my argument is it is always an African way of looking at it because I'm an African. And so if I operationalize it as an African, then it now becomes African. Now, can I speak to something Unc said a few moments ago?
Please, please,
Because
please.
I put a post out on Instagram, and I sent it to you also, Doc. And I said I've heard some of us in the family say that race isn't a social construct.
Mhm.
I say it definitely is, but that's distinct from saying racism doesn't exist.
Thank
Let's not conflate the two. Additionally, suggesting that this argument is a new white idea is also incorrect, as our scholars have long asserted this as a means of resistance. Our scholars, all the way back to Du Bois and before him, always spoke about the pseudoscientific racial stratification system. And if you are saying that race is not a social construct, you are also supporting that black people are inferior. See, the problem is you don't understand what you're saying. And I'm not trying to beat up on my brothers and sisters, but the thing is they come for you and don't know what they're talking about. And so again, I get the argument would say, well, now That's not my definition. But understand that when someone is coming before you and saying it is a social construct and they're black, they are not coming from a white person's doctrine. That is a misconception. And the fact is, I've always said all the people I went to school with, I'm telling you whether or not they knew all the kente cloth and all that type of thing, they were always in school, as you said, trying to figure out a problem. And that is what a PhD is. One who is trying to figure out some problem. And most of the people I went to school, whether it was PWIs or HBCUs, did I say that right? HBCU.
Yeah, you said it.
Okay.
You said it.
HBCU were always in there trying to find out problems, to solve problems in our community.
Fire! 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 Fire!
So it's bananas to me that, you know, someone just said on in the chat, they were saying how like nowadays you could just make a YouTube channel and just call yourself, you know, an expert in anything, right? You could just be an expert. And that's how it is in the unconscious community. You know, you could just present. You don't have to show that you've gone through a process where someone who was qualified verified that you are actually knowledgeable in this field of study, right? You could just present. And that idea is anti-black and anti-African in and of itself. Because in our traditional societies, you always had to demonstrate that you are what you say you are. So to sit there now and act like it's acceptable to come into the community and present yourself to be something and not have gone through a qualifying process is anti-black, anti-African in and of itself. Brother Ankh, go ahead. You got the floor.
Well, I want to first of all, the brother killed it. Okay, killed it. I want to show a clip. I think the clip will put it all together, and we're gonna find out which side who on and what side they're not on, and what they thought they heard and what they figured out to get here. Let's hear this man right here speak. Right? Let's hear what he's saying.
With the Africans, you're saying in essence that there's no such thing as a race. Oh, I maintain that race is the phoniest issue ever invented by the mind of man. The European invented and developed the concept of race. There's really no such thing as a race because nature created no races. The whole race is a man-made thing, you know. Well, how did people get to be French and English? Well, different climatic conditions and migrations and amalgams of different people and migrations of people into your country, migrations of people out. All right. Now, this is an ethnic grouping as against what we call race. If you go back and you look at an old dictionary, you won't even find a definition for a race. Race grew out of the pseudo-scientific development of Europe. And this is what Rogers was addressing himself to and saying that according to your rule, which is ridiculous, a lot of you belong to us. Well, in another context.
So see, this is the damn problem. This is the problem. Nobody's really listening to that man, what that man said. I've been saying that for how long now? Oh, you following white people. So now you're trying to say the great John Henry Clark is following white people. See that? See, they don't even match those things up. They don't even listen to. Matter of fact, it's almost like there's a certain amount. I'm gonna say it. I gotta say it. There is a certain amount of education you have to start to understand certain words that certain people are saying. There's levels to this thing right here. So I don't bash people. I only bash you after I done showed you the clip and then you argue it. Then I'm gonna bash you. Prior to that, I felt like you might not know what pseudoscientific is. He said it's a pseudoscientific idea produced by Europe. It was the one drop rule, right? He talked about the one drop rule. He explained it. The title, you put it up, Nature Knows No Color. Now we get the grasp of what he was saying, meaning nature does not produce races. Okay. And he said, based off your silly rule, right? Then everybody is about black. You feel me? So brother, you spoke to it top notch. Doc, you spoke to it top notch. Now we got what I think is one of the great historians in our community. say the same damn thing that we've been saying. How long I've been saying that now? Why do you
Oh
think
my
I call
gosh,
you
yes.
pseudoscientific? Because you follow while claiming to fight against white people, you continue to push these pseudoscientific ideas. I don't understand that, Doc.
And Dr. Asar, you just put up a book. Show me the book that you put up.
Nature knows no color.
Yeah, I saw a glimpse of it. Nature knows no color line. Okay.
Right. What does that mean? What
Jay
see
Rogers.
J.
when you
Rogers.
see that title, what is he saying? He's saying that nature does not produce races, that human beings produce that. And it was a pseudoscientific idea that that aided and abetted in enslaving 12 million Africans. That's exactly what it did. It put you in a category below humanity. It talked about how crazy your skin color meant you were ignorant and stupid and couldn't learn, couldn't read and write. That's what it did. It marginalized you. It one drop ruled you by American standards. You know, so we read anthropology books. So I'm gonna bring that next. What does the anthropology book have to say about it? So for me, I always felt like that if we really wanted to get the true essence of learning our history, then we got to go through the lenses of anthropology. Simple. There's no other way to do it. And why am I saying this? Because that's the way our great speakers did. The ones that were grounded in science, like, for instance, John Henry Clark, John Jackson and them, Dr. Ben, they all taught Shikant Diopes, right? In particular, Dr. Ben and John Henry Clark and them, they were non-believers. You can say what you want to say about it. And John Jackson, non-believer, and they all stood on the foundation of what humanity was and where it came from. Come from Africa, and we know this because we have tools to prove this. And one of the tools, evolutionary biology, actually verifies that humans come from Africa first. Not just saying it, but we need to be able to verify it. And we will use anthropology because the world uses anthropology. Simple as that.
Let me ask you two a question. Do you feel like the internet, do you feel like, Google search engines, right? That's one of many search engines. Do you think that has made society feel like they are experts now because they have, access to the internet, which has, enormous amounts of data on it, right? So do you believe that access, right, to that data that's on the internet, the World Wide Web, do you think that has caused people to feel like they are now experts? I do, but I just want to hear, your thoughts.
Go ahead, Doc.
Peace. Absolutely. If I could give just a like more of a example. So I'm a psychotherapist, and there's medical professionals. There's all types of professionals out here, right? And so the one thing is, your client or your patient can come in and know something that you don't know. But the problem is, we often confuse that to mean that I now know more than the person who's dedicated all their years to this thing. And I often remind people that, look, I might not know one medication, or the medical professional may not know one medication. I might not know one psychotherapeutic model or modality or what have you. But the reality is, my training, my understanding, my depth of research allows me to now take that and do something with that, and even understand it to a vaster level in most cases than one who's bringing it to me that doesn't have that level of training. However, with our egos and our trauma and all these type of things, and I mean, I have compassion for my brothers and sisters, just to be honest with you, sometimes that makes us feel as if we know more. And so anybody can have all types of information, but what do you do with that information is very important. So again, so just to answer your question briefly, shortly, and succinctly, is yes.
Okay.
I think I sit from a very, very, very privileged stance. I had the ability to grow up in front of the community, and people mock me for my growth. So of course the internet made you feel like you was a damn expert. No shit, Sherlock. As we peruse through the pages of Google and this and that and the other, we was like, yeah, there you go. The algorithm had you finding your confirmation biases, and you was like, yeah, I knew that was wrong. And I start to recognize that, man, there's something wrong with that right there. as I got to talk to more people, as I got introduced to just the levels of the different conversations, right? As I got a chance to really sit down with a Dr. Mayat, as she introduced me to all her doctor friends, you know, it was
Man, I
very
love them.
clear. All of them, got to talk to all of them, got to sit, talk to them. And I was like, man, them being doctors ain't stopping them from being black a bit. And they're all concerned with the daggone struggle. Then I started to feel like a nut. I was like, oh, I got that part wrong. So for me, when I get something wrong, I'm gonna tell the community I was just wrong about that.
We've had conversation about that too. Remember, I said they never wrong in the unconscious community, Ankh?
Yeah,
No one is never wrong. No one ever concedes.
I
You
learned.
know, it's bananas. Go ahead, brother Ankh.
So I
Absolutely.
learned from those experiences to recognize that a doctorate degree doesn't stop you from recognizing your Africanness.
Mm-hmm.
A doctor
being
doesn't
wrong at
stop
times.
you, right? For saying that you're wrong. As a matter of fact, experts will say it quicker than everybody else. Oh, whoa. I don't know that.
Absolutely.
Not my field. So I say, man, I said, there's a certain amount of humanity in being a doctor, right? Of knowing that you have a tool that could help humanity and destroy humanity. And then to find the essence and the quality of wanting to help your community, I find that to be very important. So the internet can be a tool of discovery and importance, and the internet can be a tool of destruction if not understanding what you are. You could Google any damn thing. So then I start to understand how to critique sources and what was quality sources. And then I start to really understand what the university was. And every time I would say it was the white man's education, and I'm gonna have to look to some of the earliest universities where you find in West Africa, you find in Egypt, and different places in Africa. And I was like, man, so I can't go against the universities, right? What am I really trying to fight against? And I realized that I was acting like I was back in the 50s with my message. And so the internet can keep you safely stuck in the 50s, right? And not moving forward. So yes, that internet, man, is a monster. And I think it's important for those who on the net. I think it's important to go to major university sites. I think it's important to go to anthropological sites. I think it's important to get the proper books. But this thing comes with growth, though. I think the books that was written by John Jackson and them, I think it's important to open it up at the back of the book and look at the bibliography, look at the times and the dates of when they, you know, 1930, 1940. Okay, well, I need to upgrade that. But at least they was using the anthropology of the day. See, that's what Diop did. He used the available anthropology. And there's where the actual debate occurs. The debate does not occur on the internet. The debate does not occur from your YouTube channel. It actually occurs in the field. That's why I appreciate the good sister and the good brother, because you're actually in the field where you can actually challenge that. You don't challenge it on YouTube talking crazy, acting like you're a doctor. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of that going around, Doc. It's a lot of people challenging these experts and not an expert themselves. You got to get in the field. You know what I'm saying? To challenge the field. That's my stance, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm with you. Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead, Doc.
Can I build? Okay, I want to build off of that. Now, this, I got this from a brother that y'all just like told us stress not too long ago. But this brother, and I think it's some power and some merit in this statement, even if it's not 100% exact. What he said, Dr. Jared Ball, he says that when you get a bachelor's degree, you think you know everything. When you get a master's degree, you realize there's various perspectives, and when you get a doctoral degree, you realize I don't know shit.
Facts. That's so Doc. That's so fact. You're like, God damn, right?
So that humility that you're speaking about, brother Ankh, it comes from that place. Like, look, and even to also recognize that science itself says you don't know everything, but this is what we know. In fact, you were looking to prove things wrong and not right.
Yeah, and then things that we think we know now may change later on. So what we thought we knew was true today, tomorrow we may say because of data, and me, Ankh and I have had this conversation, because of data, you know, finding new data, discovering new things, what we thought we knew to be true yesterday or even today may not be true tomorrow, as you just stated, trying to falsify things. And so that's why a lot of times we'll say, you'll hear experts say, well, this is consistent with what we currently know, or this is consistent, with what we currently know, or this is consistent with based on the information that we have readily available to us now, right? But as years go on, we just, with new discoveries and different things, we tweak, we tweak our theories, or we tweak our knowledge. I'll say that,
That's
based on
exactly
what we
right.
have. So yeah, would you say, Unc?
So I would like to show you an example of this. This is an iPhone. And let your mind run for a minute. This is an iPhone. And we have Ethereum. What this is, we only have the capacity to see this part of it. That's all we have. We only can see this. Okay, there's cameras, there's that, there's this, is Apple there. Okay, that's what it is, right? And as we gain more insight, as we gain the tools to rotate the phone, we start to see there's other discoveries here. Now we have to change. It ain't just this side, it's that side. And oh, by the way, there's this Sharpie right there on that thing. See that? See? So science is always changing based off more available information. And I think those are the points that the experts understand and the typical novice do not, because they think, wait a minute, I thought you had the truth. Science is not looking for the truth, it's looking for the approximates. But who can understand that without education?
That's very uncomfortable. That's a very uncomfortable place to be in. And this is why our people are led or compelled to follow those who you call pseudo. And it even baffles me to a degree that the community says that y'all created the word pseudo, like y'all just made this thing up. I mean, you would know that word existed well before you even heard Dr. Clark, right? So nonetheless, this idea that we look for in our trauma, whatever that trauma is, human beings want to feel safe. Our anxieties, we want to feel safe. So we're more likely to look for people who say they have the answers. Hence charlatans, hence con men, hence, the polites. I'll throw some names up there if you understand what I mean by the polites, the nature boys.
Right.
I'm not going to, so those type of folks.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, but I mean, everything that you brothers stated, I concur with 1,000%. And it's just to be honest with you, it's insulting when folks will come to me and talk about all this electrical engineering. And I could throw a jab, Brother Ankh. I'm not going to do it. The brother, in New York, he presents himself as an engineer of some sorts. And remember I told you the children were in the school building bridges from popsicle sticks, and he was saying that he had a STEM program. But I'm not going to go there. But what I noticed, and also the kids were in there doing STEM kits off of Amazon, and you could use STEM kits to promote STEM and stuff like that. But then to use STEM kits and build popsicle sticks bridges and say you have this elaborate STEM program, I think it was just very disingenuous. But it's very insultful to me, Brother Ankh, that people will watch a YouTube video on something and then come to people like myself or Dr. Dennis, who has put in years and years of study, and act like now we're on the same level. And it's not that, you get what I'm saying, brother? They watched a YouTube video on electrical engineering, and now you want to come to me and present yourself as an electrical engineer, right? Or they watch a video on, you said psychotherapy, Dr. Asar, right? And now they're coming to you as if they can challenge you and go at you because they watch a YouTube video, or because they Google something, and half the time they don't even know what they're looking at. When they Google, they found an article that supports what they feel or what they believe, and now they think they can roll with the big boys or the big girls. And so, like I said, it's actually insulting. And I do believe that access to too much information and disinformation has a cost to it. It's a consequence to it. And I think that that's what we're seeing now. Everyone who has this access, now they become the experts. They're now the master teachers. They're the doctors. We don't need to go to school. We just watch YouTube, right? And now they want to come to experts who have spent 10, 20, spent a lifetime studying this particular area. And then you think that you can challenge that person and, and hang with that person. It's actually insulting, Brother Ankh, to experts of that field who put in those years and years of study. Fellas, we're at an hour mark almost. Do you have any closing words for the listening audience?
Well, you just explained the Dunning-Kruger effect,
Mm.
right?
Break that
Where
down. Hold on. Let me put
uh
this. I see you got something else up here.
well, I want to put that video. Well, Dunning-Kruger is defined as the tendency of people with low ability in specific areas to give an overly positive assessment of this ability. Simple as that. So you think you're better than an expert because you've looked up some things on the internet and you can't make a fair assessment of that. And that's the Dunning-Kruger. And I think that's important to know what measures are affecting our cognitive thinking skills. And all these things are broken down. And you know, our biases can actually bring us all the way down. And we have to learn how to conquer our biases with elegance and grace. Let me play this clip right here. This will be my closing statement in this clip right here. I think this is important to our community.
Ashe.
If race is arbitrary, then could we say that being called black was a political term?
It's a political term and a term which indicates our self-awareness at this juncture in history. And I think we really need it. We need to really bathe in blackness for a while, but I wish we'd get the bath over with and go on to something a little more important, because black in itself is not an ethnic term. Black tells you how you look, but it don't tell you who you are. We are essentially an African people. Wherever we live on this earth, we're essentially an African people. And we relate to the millions of African people throughout the world, including the uncounted millions of Africans in Asia. The word Afro-American or African-American would probably be more appropriate and more honest and more in keeping with what we actually are, because all of us are not positively, physically, real jet black. And so the argument now sometimes is between the supernationalists and the mild nationalists and blacker than thou, when blackness is a state of mind, a state of attitude, a state of approach to things that can exist in almost any of us, including from the blonde black person to the jet black. And the jet black can be traitors and they can be patriarchs. They can be a whole lot of, see, we've been everything in history from saint to buffoons.
From saint to buffoons. See what I'm saying? So like, I watch these lectures over and over again. You know what I'm saying? I always gravitated to those who were grounded in science. Not religion, but grounded in science. So did you hear what that man just said?
Oh, I heard what he said.
Like what, like you. So who amongst you think that you're gonna put that together better than how he just put that together? That's how the high level conversations are supposed to go. So that'll be my my closing statement. I'll close with the great master teacher John Henry Clark.
Ashe. Dr. Asar.
I don't know why he did that to me. And
I close with Dr. John Henry Clark, and then we talk about Dr. Asar. Like, hold
on. All praise, right, to the great Dr. John Henry Clark, right? So I say this as a social scientist. So I come and I also say that we come with love. Sometimes it doesn't feel like love, right? We come because we care about you when we say these things. And I've been in many circles where this type of information is seen as an attack. And I'm saying this is not an attack, because it's not even easy for us to highlight things that we know that you don't want to eat. But we love you so much, we know that you might throw a blow at us because you don't want the medicine. So again, this is medicine, and we're just messengers bringing the medicine.
Right.
So to say that, what I'm saying is I don't come before you to belittle, to say I'm any better, or any of those type of things, because none of us are anyone without all of us, right? With each other. So again, I just say I ditto the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, and I appreciate Brother Ankh for you always keeping that very clear. Very clear that this is what our elders have said. This is what our ancestors have said. And and not to say they always got to be true. I mean, right? But the fact is that this is what they said, and I'm still marching in line with what they're saying, even if I do say that this piece right here wasn't available at that time. So again, I thank you, Dr. Mayat. I thank
No
you,
problem, William.
what do you call it, supporters of Dr. Mayat and Brother Ankh for having us today.
No, and Doc, I appreciate you and I appreciate Brother Ankh. I need you to come back. Remember, I wanted to talk to you about trauma and trauma responses to different experiences,
Mhm.
right? Or different violations. And so let's connect, via text and see when you could come on sometime this week. I do
Yes.
know on Wednesday at noon, Brother Tony Browder is going to come on because he's slowing down. He's getting ready to really retire. He's like, I just had a grandson, and he's like, I'm bowing out. I'm getting ready to live the rest of my
Ashe.
days. He said, spending time with my grandchild. So he's pushing a lot off of his plate right now, and rightfully so. But he's going to come on the platform on Wednesday at 12 noon. So I'm thinking, I don't know, Thursday or Friday, if you got something going on, even before Wednesday, if you want to come on Tuesday, or Monday, just let me know what your availability looks like. So every day this week looks good for me, with the
Okay.
exception of Wednesday. All right. But I definitely need you to come back, Dr. Asar. I think my closing words, I'm going to close with Malcolm X. Today is Malcolm X's birthday. And Malik El-Shabazz, Nana Malik El-Shabazz, would have been 99 years old today. And so I do want to close out with a quote, with him speaking. And he's going to be speaking on education. Let me share my audio. These are my closing words right here.
This is part true. You won't find very many people who are Afro-American who will admit it. But if it is true, why? It is true that there is a sluggishness, intellectual sluggishness, academic sluggishness in almost any Negro community. But this exists only because of the result that has come upon us through years and years of slavery and being held down in this society. And this is why I made reference to the book Crisis in Black and White. This particular man gives a very good scientific analysis as to why this lethargy exists in the Negro community. It is something that has been created by the system. The system is designed to make the Negro student lose his interest in education almost before he even gets started in school. And the parents, usually, who are also limited where education is concerned and who have run into so many barriers and obstacles, despite the fact they had education, sometimes they ask themselves, what's the use? So as long as the system that we are in exists, and this system, the survival of this system depends upon the continued exploitation of the black man in this country. The survival of it depends upon the continued degrading of the black man in this country, and the necessity of using us as the whipping boy and the alibi and the excuse. As long as this system exists, then you will find that our people will have the same attitude toward education, and they have a justified, I should say, they have an attitude that can be explained. But at the same time, the burden rests upon the leaders of the Afro-American community to try and instill within the youth, especially, the desire to further their education, because without it, you're not going anywhere on this earth today.
Did you just hear what he just said, Brother Ankh, or was it just me?
It was just you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, he said that it's up to the Negro leaders. He said it's up to the Negro leaders to instill basically the importance, right, of education. Because he said without that, you ain't going nowhere. That's what he said. In this society, you ain't going nowhere. And he said, I understand where this sentiment is coming from. It can be explained. It could be, justified. He's like, I get all that. And we see what's going on with black folks in this system. But at the end of the day, he closed with saying that, it's up to Negro leaders, black leaders, right, to instill the value of education in the youth. Because he said, without it, you're not going anywhere. And so anyway, Dr. Asar, Brother Ankh, thank you so much for coming on the platform. I appreciate you, brothers, and I love you, brothers, dearly. And I know you got a lot going on. Y'all got families, wives, children, could be anywhere right now with them. But you came here for an hour to educate the community as you've always done. And I want to let you know that your time is appreciated. You are appreciated. All right. To the folks who are watching, thank you so much. For the folks who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. You could have been anywhere today in these YouTube streets, right? Or in these IG streets, could have been anywhere, but you were right here with us, and we appreciate you. All right. If you haven't subscribed to any of our channels, I know Brother Ankh he's streaming on his channel right now, his channels right now, and I'm streaming on my channels. Make sure, family, that you subscribe to our YouTube channels. Hit the notification bell so that whenever we go live, you will be notified. I see my IG families in the building. Peace and love to everyone who's watching on IG. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Real quick, Doc. I'm about to go live on the Community of Skeptics and have an after party show.
Let's do it. I'm coming over there with you. Let's do it. Let's do it. Community of Skeptics YouTube channel. All right, y'all. So the family that's watching on IG, thank you so much for tuning in, y'all. Peace. And I always say Black excellence.